Later on, we're going to be learning more about commas, but for now, we're just learning how to write them correctly at the beginning and then also when you're connecting them. So one way that we write them is when we have yes or no at the beginning of a sentence. So let me see here. Micah, can you think of a sentence that would start with yes? No? You can't think of any? Okay, Nicholas?
Yes, the tree house will be built tomorrow.
Wow, that's a fun one. Okay, what about a sentence with no?
No.
Logan?
No. No, I do not want to do this today.
Okay, so, right, very good. Now, another way we need to use a comma is when we are talking to someone in our sentence. Now, if we're talking about them, we don't need to use the comma. But if we're talking to them, we need to use the comma. So, if it's at the beginning of a sentence, let's just use the name John. Okay? So, John, you could say, John, you need to do your homework. All right? So, I'm talking to John. So, I put a comma after his name. Now, if I put his name in the middle of a sentence, so if I say, how can I put that in the middle? You need, well, let's do it at the end first. You need to do your homework, John. So you would put a comma before his name, and then, because you're putting a period after. How about tonight, John, you need to do your homework. Okay? I'm not going to write the whole thing. So, if I put his name in the middle of a sentence, you need to surround it with commas. Tonight, John, you need to do your homework. John, you need to do your homework. You need to do your homework, John. So, any of those. All right, now, what if I'm talking to someone, maybe I'm talking to John's mother, and I say, John needs to do his homework tonight. Do I need a comma?
No.
No, because I'm not talking to John. I'm talking to his mother about him.
Yeah.
But when I'm talking to him, that's when I use a comma. Jacob? Okay.
No, John. Do you know what before you can do it?
Right. If you have no and the name, you would put a comma, no, comma, John, comma, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And then the other way we learn how to use a comma is when we're joining two sentences together with a joining word. And I believe we did these in your journals. Okay, so for instance, if you say, we were going to go to the carnival, but it rained. You would say, comma, but. Okay? Because if I had two sentences, we were going to go to the carnival, it rained. Connect them together with our joining word, but you need to use a comma before your joining word. Okay, now, the reason we are learning how to do this properly is because we want a smooth sentence. Now, how many of you, well, I shouldn't say this because some of you will say, no, I don't want it like that. But if you're driving down a road, you want it to be nice and smooth. Okay, now, of course, if you're riding a four-wheeler or something out in the field, you want it to be bumpy because it's more fun. But when you're in a car, listen, when you're in a car or a bus or something, you want it to be nice and smooth. It's the same with our sentences. We want them to be nice and smooth so they're easier to read. So what we don't want is a choppy sentence. Okay? A choppy is just lots of little sentences. It's not fun to read little choppy sentences. Do you know when you did read choppy sentences?
Yeah.
In kindergarten, when you were learning how to read, Bob likes jam.
That was
Bill likes jam. Sue likes jam. Okay? Those are choppy sentences because you weren't big enough to read a long sentence. But a 4th grader should not be writing a sentence like that. Those are choppy. We want them to be nice and smooth. Okay, boys and girls, there's a lot of talking and there shouldn't be. If you have a question, you need to raise your hand. So, open your language book to page 11. And we're going to talk about not writing choppy sentences. Okay, thank you for those boys and girls who did not have their book open yet. We needed to wait. All right, let's have, all right, Nicholas, do you want to read the green box at the top of page 11?
Yes.
Okay.
Too many short, simple sentences make writing choppy.
Chloe?
Chloe will go to Lily's party. Ella will go to Lily's party. Combined choppy sentences into a longer, smoother sentence. Chloe and Ella will go to Lily's party.
Good. So in the example I gave you about everyone that likes jam, you could say, Bob, Bill, and Sue like to eat jam. Make it into one sentence. Same with here. You would take what they have in common. Okay, so Chloe and Ella both are going to Lily's party. So instead you can write Chloe and Ella will go to Lily's party. Okay? So let's see if we can find out which sentence is written correctly in Think A. In the blank, write the letter of the sentence or sentences that are written correctly. So for number 1, letter A, Brian is in my class, Elijah is in my class. Or letter B, Brian and Elijah are in my class. Which one is the correct answer, class? B. So number 1 is letter B. Number 2, we have either letter A, Elizabeth sharpened her pencil and began her homework, or letter B, Elizabeth sharpened her pencil, Elizabeth began her homework. What's correct? A. So follow along. I'm going to read that middle section there. It says, many thoughts connected by commas and joining words make writing stringy. So for instance, Lady Hungerford was born in England and she died in Belgium, and her belongings included a utensil that was a fork on one end and it was a spoon on the other end. Whew, that was a stringy sentence, okay? It was just too much. So it says separate some of the ideas into complete sentences. Lady Hungerford was born in England and she died in Belgium, period. Notice how there's a comma before and, because they combined 2 sentences. Her belongings included a utensil that was a fork on one end, comma, and it was a spoon on the other end. That's much easier to read like that. So we're going to practice write B, rewrite each stringy sentence as separate, smooth sentences. So for number 1, the sentences are, modern forks are made from a coil of stainless steel wire, and a machine cuts and flattens the wire until it looks like a paintbrush. So how can we change that sentence into something that's not so stringy? Jensen?
Modern forks are made from coil or stainless steel, comma, wire.
Why'd you put a comma there?
Cause it wouldn't. Oh, stainless steel iron. That's the thing.
Yeah, stainless steel wire is all one thought.
So that, and then after wire, put a comma.
Well, they already have a comma there. Why don't we put a period and end the sentence?
Yes.
And then we'll take out the word and then say, a machine cuts and flattens the wire until it looks like a paintbrush.
Yes.
So we're actually going to take that stringy sentence and turn it into a smooth sentence. So for number 1, you're going to write modern forks are made from a coil of stainless steel wire. Period. Everybody's writing this, right?
Yeah.
A machine cuts and flattens the wire. Until it looks like a paintbrush. Period. That's interesting. It would be interesting to watch them make work.
So
You're basically writing,
the and.
take the and out and capitalize the A. And I'm gonna go ahead and, if you're not done number 1, keep writing. Number 2 says, a press cuts the design into the handle and another press cuts the tines into the fork, and the last steps are shaping the fork into its slight curve and polishing the metal. Who thinks they can turn that into correctly written sentences? Marissa?
Press cuts the design into a handle, period.
Mm-hmm.
You take away the and.
Mm-hmm. You can begin your sentence with another. Another press cuts the tines into the fork, period. Are you done? Well, not quite done. And then the last sentence could be, the last steps are shaping the fork into its slight curve and polishing the metal. So you don't want a sentence that's too long and you don't want one that's too short. You want to combine your thoughts together and make them easy to read. So I'm going to start writing number 2. A press cuts cuts the design into the handle, period. Another press cuts the tines into the fork, period. The last steps are shaping the fork into the slight curve and polishing the metal.